Dave from New Jersey. It's the SNL Nerd, the show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out about Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
And I'm your co-host, Darren Patterson.
Hey, Darren, how you doing?
Hey, John Trumbull, how are you? Happy almost Halloween there.
Yeah, this is actually, this is going to be going up about a week before Halloween. But since SNL is back with a new episode for the 29th, we decided to do a Halloween-themed movie for this week.
Spooky.
Spooky.
Booga, booga, booga.
And we have a special guest joining us because, I mean, this is a movie that it really needs three people covering it.
This is a three-man job.
It's a three-man job. So we have our buddy from the I Love Rock and Roll podcast and a very funny stand-up comedian, Mr. Ken Krantz.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, welcome, Ken.
Yeah, Ken, good to have you again. Third timer.
Yeah, we were just reminiscing before we started recording. You've been on about the Keegan-Michael Key episode of SNL, which you actually got to attend the taping of. And you joined us last year when we were doing a memorial episode for Norm Macdonald, and we covered his movie Dirty Work.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and how do we decide to have you on for this one again? Did you just suggest this one to us? I can't remember.
No, one of you posted about the movie, and I just commented like, "Oh, I saw that in the theater."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was me because we'll get into it, but like I posted. So basically, this infamous movie we're going to talk about, it was so terrible and infamous that there's actually now a podcast solely dedicated to the making and production of it and how everything went wrong. I believe it's called How Not to Make a Movie.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think we've said what the movie is yet, though. So we should say we're covering Tales from the Crypt presents Bordello of Blood, starring Dennis Miller, Erica Eleniak, and Angie Everhart.
Yeah, this movie came out August 16th, 1996. Had a budget of like $2.5 million. It made some money. It made like $5 million. But yeah, I mean, this movie is pretty widely regarded as being just a horrible bomb of a movie that pretty much destroyed a trilogy. Because as I think we talked about on the last episode, this came out at peak Tales from the Crypt. For those that all you youngsters who may not know, Tales from the Crypt was a show on HBO that basically told like a standalone horror stories around each episode. It's kind of like a modern day Twilight Zone or Black Mirror,
right,
type of thing.
And it was based on a comic book from EC Comics from the 1950s, and they always had these horror stories that were hosted by this character called the Crypt Keeper, and they had these gruesome twist endings, but they still had a sense of humor about them, and the show kind of followed in that sense. And they had a lot of high profile filmmakers and a lot of stars working on the show. Like Richard Donner was producing on the show, Joel Silver, Walter Hill. A lot of impressive people worked on Tales of the Crypt over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like for its day, it was actually kind of a big deal. This show, like I remember a lot of people were into it, and a lot of people liked it.
Yeah, it was kind of like the in show to do for a little while.
It was.
Yeah.
So the fact that this show was so big and popular, of course, they were like, hey, let's make some movies, all based on this. We got this brand that has some little name recognition.
Mm-hmm.
First movie came out was called Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight.
Yeah,
that did well.
Mm-hmm.
So then they came out with this movie, Bordello of Blood. This movie did so badly, they decided, hey, that third movie we were gonna do, let's not do that.
Yeah. So this was disappointing, and we did some research. I listened to some episodes of the How Not to Make a Movie podcast, which some of the makers of the film, Gilbert Adler and A.L. Katz, did. And they talked to a lot of people involved with the production. They told some behind the scenes stories of this. And this isn't originally the film that they were originally planning to make.
Yeah, because I mean, this screenplay was actually written by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis, the duo that brought us, I mean, one of the greatest movies of all time, Back to the Future.
Yeah, yeah,
And like I believe they wrote this just as they got out of college. This was going. They wanted to make like a kind of a schlocky grindhouse, you know, type of movie, like a black exploitation kind of film,
mhm.
exploitation film, where it's like, oh, let's a whorehouse full of vampires.
Yeah. They wrote this back in the '70s, like when they were right out of film school, and apparently, it was never made. They wrote it back in the '70s, and in the '90s, Robert Zemeckis he had a deal with Universal, and he was considering leaving Universal to go over to DreamWorks, which had just started up at that time. And Universal really wanted to sweeten the pot and make Robert Zemeckis want to stay at Universal, so they promised him that they would make this old spec script of his. Um, so I guess he would have seen a little money out of that, and whatever, easy paycheck for him. So he ended up staying at Universal, and so they dropped their plans to film another movie. What was that movie called? I don't
It
have the
was a
title.
zombie movie. I don't know. I don't know what it was called, but it was supposed to be like a zombie movie.
Yeah, okay, I've got it here. It was called Dead Easy, aka Fat Tuesday, and they were at the point of like scouting locations for it, and then like something like 3 weeks before they were going to go into production, they said, no, you're doing this movie, Bordello of Blood, instead.
Yep. Oh boy.
So
Well, listen, I just want to say this. By the way, like, they were, of course, they were upset because they thought that they were doing this one project, and then Bordello of Blood, which is like such a schlocky title.
yeah.
But the concept of a bordello filled with vampires, I think it's a good premise. I mean, look at From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, it's
Like they had the right idea. This just the finished product was
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's honestly not that different of a premise from Dusk Till Dawn, which I understand was at one point also considered as a Tales from the Crypt movie. That's a movie that Quentin Tarantino did with Robert Rodriguez, with
Yeah.
and George Clooney and Selma Hayek, and and that's a fun schlocky movie. I remember seeing that in the theaters back in the '90s with my buddies, and we had a blast. We had at spoiler for From Dusk Till Dawn. I remember at the end of the movie, because there's a strip club that turns out to be populated by vampires, and at the end of the movie they uh, put holes in the walls of this place, and sunlight is reflecting in off the disco balls there, and then all the vampires start exploding. And when that happened, my buddy Lawston immediately started singing "Burn Baby Burn" Disco Inferno, and most of our row joined in for it. So yeah, we had a good time at that movie. This movie, not so much.
Not so much. So I don't know. Well, here, well, let's get into this. Ken, like you said, you mentioned you saw this film in the theaters, right? So, like, were you? I mean, are you a big horror movie guy? Are you a big Tales from the Crypt guy? Like, what
this
made you want to see this?
this hit everything for me. So I'm a big horror movie guy. I liked Tales from the Crypt. Actually, like somebody in my family, like parent or an uncle, but somebody somewhere along the line had given me like a hardcover anthology of the Tales from the Crypt comics.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so like when I was a kid, I would read them and I loved them and I loved the show. I would watch the so this was like horror, plus it had the name Tales from the Crypt, which and there was like a few of those around, right? It was like Tales from the Crypt, Creep Show had a couple movies out, and
Yeah.
they even tried turning like Nightmare on Elm Street into an anthology series right around that time. But Tales from the Crypt was the best.
Yeah, I think like yeah, like Tales from the Crypt. Like once that hit, like you saw, like Tales from the Dark Side, and like some other shows were like kind of trying to do like a Tales from the Crypt type show.
Yeah,
Right.
it was kind of a trendy thing in the mid '90s to have like those anthology shows. But yeah, there were EC. they basically made their name in horror comics. They had Tales from the Crypt and lots of other comics, and then they actually got in trouble in the 50s. Some people were linking these horror comics to juvenile delinquency, and there are actual congressional hearings about it. And that's how the Comics Code started, which was basically when they came up with the Comics Code, it was basically to drive EC Comics out of business, just saying like you can't do stuff like they're doing in these horror comics. You can't feature vampires, you can't feature zombies, you can't you can't present law enforcement in a bad light, and you can't have drug use and all this stuff, and you can't. Basically, it was like preventing them from doing any horror comics, and then so EC ended up rebranding, and they actually eventually came out with Mad Magazine. It was the same editor and publisher, William Gaines, and his name still appears on the Tales from the Crypt show as like a producer, I think.
By
And
the way, Mad Magazine, I think, was a way worse influence
yeah, exactly.
on juveniles than a horror comic ever could have been.
Oh yeah, no, a Mad Magazine. I mean, they totally had the last laugh because Mad Magazine taught at least two generations of kids to question authority and be have a healthy irreverence for stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, it did way more damage to America's youth than horror comics ever did. Um,
Here, here.
but
So I love horror movies. I've always been a big Saturday Night Live fan.
mhm.
I always like sarcasm is right in my wheelhouse. So I always loved Dennis Miller. I always thought Dennis Miller was great in the update. So for this checked a lot of boxes: horror,
Yeah,
comedy, uh, you know, Saturday Night Live. So I was very. I remember being excited to see this.
yeah. I actually saw this in the theaters too back in '96. And yeah, I was still like a Dennis Miller fan at that point, and I think I had a little thing for Erica Elenak. So I think I caught a matinee or something like that. I don't remember liking it at all, but
Hmm.
I did see this back in the day. Darren, this was your first time through with the movie, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not like you guys are braver than I am. I'm not a huge horror movie guys. I don't know, like something about like movies where people get stabbed and bit. I don't. I could deal like with maybe like psychological thrillers,
Yeah,
but straight up slasher horror movies, I get it. I'll admit I'm a bit of a fraidy cat.
yeah,
So yeah, but yeah, this is my first time seeing it. But like you guys, I was a big Dennis Miller fan in high school back in the day. I listened to his what was it, the Off White album.
yeah,
I listened to that quite a bit, and like now that I think about it, part of me thinks that maybe I liked his comedy so much because that's what I thought like a smart intellectual comedian was supposed to like sound like and act like oh he's using all these big words and like he don't care like but yeah, but like I was a big Dennis Miller fan back in the day. As time went on and I got into college, I kind of drifted away from him, and after he sort of turned his political leanings to a certain direction, I kind of veered away from that. But yeah, for a while I was into Dennis Miller.
yeah, yeah. I was a big fan of his in the '80s certainly, and then that kind of carried over into the '90s, and then I kind of tapered off him, like you said. But yeah, I remember the Off White album being a good comedy album. I haven't listened to it in ages, but hopefully it holds up.
Yeah, I think like that's probably the reason why like the producer Joel Silver, who produced this movie, really wanted Dennis Miller to be in this film because again I did a little research, and apparently Katz and Adler, who wrote the screenplay, and Adler was directing it. Gil Adler,
Mhm.
who this is his first film he ever directed. I think before this he was like producer on Tales from the Crypt. So he worked on Tales from the Crypt, but he never directed before.
Well, he directed episodes,
Oh,
but
he directed the episodes,
this was
right?
his first feature film, and he wanted Daniel Baldwin for the lead role for the private detective.
Yeah, and he also wanted Robin Givens to play the part of Lilith.
Yeah. Uh,
But
which is much better casting, by the way.
so much. I mean, I could see that movie working. Yeah, yeah. Um, but Joel Silver apparently also insisted on Angie Everhart because he produced the movie Fair Game with Cindy Crawford, and so he was like, "Oh, supermodel actresses, that's going to be the next big thing." So he was like, "Let's get Angie Everhart in here." And they also Angie Everhart was dating or was engaged to Sylvester Stallone at the time, and Sylvester Stallone was doing the movie Assassins, uh, which Joel Silver was also a producer on, and that was shooting in Seattle. And Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood was shooting in Vancouver. And he was like, "If you cast Angie, we can I can see her every weekend because we'd be with each other." Which I mean, that's a great reason to cast a movie, right?
yeah, hey, put my girl in this movie. I want to see her on the weekends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's like they spun a wheel to find their three leads.
yeah.
Is what
It's a very randomly cast movie, yeah, and nobody has any particular chemistry together, and
no, not really. And the fact that Angie Everhart has had little to no acting experience at all,
yeah, and
it's
I hate to say it, but yeah, it kind of shows.
it does kind of show.
It's she's I mean she says every line more or less the same way, and she doesn't have any particular personality, which when you're the lead villain in the movie, that's kind of a problem.
Kinda.
uh,
yeah, when you're supposed to be like the most evil
yeah,
being on Earth, like the mother of all vampires.
yeah,
Yeah.
You should inject some personality.
yeah, yeah. uh,
Yeah. More
and
personality.
and we have Erica Eleniak, who at that time I'd say best known for Baywatch. She's also in Under Siege. She's like the lead actress in Under Siege. But at the time they were doing this movie, she was like, "Oh, I don't want to do any sort of." She didn't want to do any more roles like trading on her sex appeal. She wanted to be taken more seriously as an actress, and so they rewrote the role for her and made her like more prim and proper person who's like working for a church, uh, like a televangelist character played by Chris Sarandon.
That's crazy to me because Erica Eleniak doesn't seem like she was such a big star that I would have uh, taken any of her demands up. Like, you know what I mean? Like if she had come and been like, "Hey," because originally she was supposed to play a former stripper,
Right.
and which is a little more Tales from the Crypt speed.
Yeah.
And she said, "No, I'm not going to play this role if she's a stripper." And you think they would have been like, "Oh, okay, then we'll just go get literally anyone else." Like we'll get Tiffany Amber Thiessen then.
Yeah. We
But
cast literally anyone else who is willing to do what the part requires.
right,
Yeah.
like our lead actress can't even act. You don't hold the cards that you think you do.
I mean, maybe, yeah, I guess they thought she would bring some of that Baywatch following or something. But yeah, it is a bit of a head scratcher because, I mean, she's perfectly fine, but it's like, yeah, was she that big of a deal? It's not like she was like Pamela Anderson because Pamela Anderson was the phenomenon. She was the big breakout from Baywatch.
Right.
Um, so
She,
yeah,
she
it's a
wants to
little,
be taken seriously as an actress, which I can appreciate.
yeah,
But it's like it's a Tales from the Crypt movie.
yeah,
Settle down.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's they even say on the how not to make a movie podcast. They were like, did the title of the movie not tip you off? It's called Bordello of Blood. It's kind of obvious what type of movie they were making. Um, and apparently they were going to do a twist in the film where it was revealed that before she started working for the televangelist, her character was a porn star.
Oh, that's what it was. Right.
Yeah, yeah, and they were she was going to have been like a plus size porn star. It was called who went by the name Chubby O'Toole, and you can see like a remnant of that in the movie. Like when Dennis Miller first meets her, he's like "Hey, do I know you from somewhere?" And they were going to reveal later on that he had seen her film.
Oh, that was a joke that never paid off. I was
Exactly.
wondering what that
That was
was.
that was a setup for a joke. I don't know why they didn't cut the setup from the movie if you're not going to have the payoff.
Yep.
And when she's in his office, she pulls out a poster that says like Chubby O'Toole in whatever it was. I don't know if we saw the title, but and she's like, "Oh, this is disgusting." So yeah, apparently she was supposed to be a former porn star, but I guess they didn't do that either because Erica Eleniak wasn't on board. I don't know. It's weird.
It's weird. Well, I mean, that's as weird as that is. It's nowhere near as weird as how Dennis Miller got cast in this film. Because, like, I don't know. Like, I think I hinted at it last time in the last episode, like how Dennis Miller is a misery to work with, and I. All right. Well, all right. Well, let's just dive into it because apparently, like, Joel Silver, the producer, was really gung ho about having Dennis Miller in this film, and Dennis Miller didn't want to do it
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
And so he kept asking him, and he said no. And then, just to appease him, Dennis Miller said, "All right, I'll do it for $1 million."
Right.
And I believe Joel Silver went to the studio and said, "Hey, we can get Dennis Miller for $1 million." And the studio was like, "Hey, fuck that noise. We're not paying $1 million for Dennis Miller. Get out of here."
Yeah.
So the, Joel Silver cut $750,000 from the special effects budget to hire Dennis Miller.
I mean, and when you have a movie where the climax revolves around exploding vampires and there's a lot of gore and people ripping out hearts and getting their heads chopped off and stuff, do you really need a big special effects budget for that?
Like, that blows my mind. The man said to himself, "I'd rather have a movie with subpar special effects than have a movie without Dennis Miller."
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Well,
I'm bringing the heat. Gotcha.
Dennis did that move. You can't fault him. Where it's like, he didn't want to do it. He thought it sounded like a shit idea. So I'm just going to throw out an absurd amount of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if they say yes, at least I'm getting an absurd amount of money. But you think that the fact that they said yes would have maybe made him a little easier to work with? If you came back to me and were like, all right, you got your $1 million, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna be pretty easy to work with from here on out.
Yeah, exactly. I would be the most pleasant person to work with if you gave me $1 million
That's
to do
right.
Bordello of Blood.
I,
I would be like, I would stay late. I would arrive early. I would be nice to everyone on the crew.
I'd bake cookies for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah, but this dude is he's filming the Dennis Miller show at the same time.
right.
So on Fridays he has to be out by noon, and then that's causing the cast and crew to have to work on weekends.
Right, because he shot Dennis Miller. Was it Dennis Miller live or whatever the show he was doing for HBO?
Maybe that was it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was it.
He was doing Dennis Miller live on Fridays. So yeah, so he'd have to leave the set early. So they had to, and that sort of shifted their weekends to like I think Monday to Tuesday or something like that. So the crew couldn't see their families on weekends. Um,
Yeah.
already he
And
got
then
on there.
and then to boot, even with this schedule that they've worked around him,
Yeah,
he can't show up on set on time or sometimes at all.
yeah.
Like he just wouldn't show up.
He'd be like, "I'm tired."
Yeah. That's another thing. So the script supervisor had to stand in for him in a lot of days, which didn't endear him to the actors because they're like, "Oh, I'm here, but the fucking lead of the movie can't be here." Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And on top of that, and then, I believe it was like on the first day of shooting when Dennis Miller read the script and he talked to the director and he was like, "Hey, I see my lines here. I don't like it. I'm just gonna like riff and do a lot of ad libbing throughout most of it. I'm gonna improv a good chunk of it," and he did. much to the chagrin of the filmmakers, because when Dennis Miller would improv lines, he would leave out stuff that was like key to the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. And then when the script supervisor would stand in for him when he didn't bother to show up on set, the script supervisor couldn't keep track of his ad libs. Like there was nobody worrying about. I guess they were worried about continuity, but there
Yeah.
wasn't anything they could do about
Yeah. It's
Wow.
it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah, and I think also on top of that, I think they also mentioned that the crew that they have working with them in Vancouver, they were like pretty inexperienced. Like I think Adler wanted to bring his own people that
Right.
he worked with on the show, but I forget why they shot in Vancouver. I think
No, I remember this. Okay, they shot in Vancouver basically to like piss off the unions. Like Joel Silver had some feud with like the Los Angeles unions, so he basically located this film to Vancouver out of spite. And the other film they were planning to do was going to be shot in New Orleans. It was like, in the bayou sort of thing, which honestly would have made sense for this movie too,
it. Yes.
because they're going for like a Southern Gothic sort of thing. Um, the Bordello, which is in the movie, is like also a mortuary. It looks like this old Southern plantation thing, so it would make total sense to shoot it in New Orleans. And they were shooting in Vancouver, and they were shooting it in Vancouver in the summer, and there's only like about 6 hours of darkness in Vancouver, and there's a lot of night shoots. You're making a vampire movie. Most of your movie is going to take place at night, so they only had about 6 hours of night instead of 12 hours of night, and that's a
ugh.
bit of a problem.
Yeah. Did no one think to check into that?
Well, I mean, but
Or-
spite, Darren,
Mm.
spite. How else are those Los Angeles unions going to learn their lesson?
Also, can you imagine thinking that you're going to shoot a movie in New Orleans, which is maybe the most fun city in all of America,
Yeah,
rich with culture and like after hours, you're going to be having the time of your life, and then it's like, oh no, we're going to Vancouver instead.
yeah.
Rocky wants his girlfriend to visit on the weekend.
I got beef with the union, so we're shooting in Vancouver.
And then apparently they talk about this on the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. After they cast Angie Everhart to keep Sly Stallone happy, Sly Stallone is apparently or allegedly cheating on her while he's doing his movie.
Oh God.
And she finds out about this at some point over the course of the movie. And like apparently some of the Bordello Blood crew found out about it before she did, and it was this whole awkward thing.
Wow.
So
What a
Have we,
disaster.
have we even mentioned that Corey Feldman's in this movie,
we have not.
and that it in a career filled with terrible roles, this might be his absolute dog shit worst.
Yeah, Corey Feldman, apparently he came into this movie because like Richard Donner, who is the producer, he directed The Goonies, which Corey Feldman was in back in the day, and so he was buddies with Richard Donner, and he also guest starred on the TV show. And so it was like, oh yeah, cast Corey Feldman, he'll be good, he'll do a good job. And I mean, he's decent in this movie. I mean, he does what he's required to do.
He
He
d-
I have a hard time buying Corey Feldman as like a badass. Him and it, him and his best friend who go to the bordello, who were
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we're so badass. Nobody could keep us down." But it's like, yeah, you and your best friend are wearing matching nose rings.
I don't know if he was so much supposed to be a badass as just like a guy who thought he was a badass, and I can buy Corey Feldman as that.
Oh, okay, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, but maybe he was scripted to be a legit badass. I don't know. It is kind of unclear. Um,
Yeah, he's wearing the costume of a badass.
yeah, but like Corey Feldman, he's the brother of Erica Laniak's character, Catherine, I think her name is, and they're clashing, and he goes out to the bar, and then there's a guy at the bar who's like, "Hey, if you guys want to get laid, you should head over to this place on Beaumont Street." And it's they'll do all sorts of outrageous stuff. He goes there. It's a mortuary. He and Corey Feldman and his buddy, they go into a coffin that's about to be loaded into the flame thing. I don't know what you call it. Um,
Incinerator.
The incinerator.
yeah. Um, and then and that's like a secret passageway down to like this basement bordello thing.
Yeah, as soon as you get there, boobs right in your face.
There's a giant close up of just a woman's chest, and then later it pans up to her face. It's like, oh yeah, she has a face too. So, it knows what type of movie it is. I mean,
Just boobs and ass as far as the eye can see throughout this movie.
yeah,
That would have been, if I was in it, that would have been the end of the movie, where he was like, "Oh, just climb into this coffin and there's tons of titties down there."
yeah,
I'd have been like, I'm not getting into a coffin
Yeah.
and hiding through an incinerator
yeah,
just to get laid.
yeah. I think there are limits.
There has to be easier ways to see boobs. That's what. There has to be a better way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this
Like, if this was shot in New Orleans, I could have just walked outside.
exactly. I can buy some dollar beads and then see some boobs that way.
Right.
Um,
And also, by the way, the dude that directed them to the Bordello, I believe he's Jenkins. That dude chews up the scenery like I've never seen an actor chew up scenery before. He like to say he plays it over the top is an understatement.
yeah,
You know how it's played? It's played like a comic book. Like that's how it probably is when you're reading the comics and you're like, "Oh, this guy's out of his mind and over the top." But
right.
when you actually see it filmed, it's just laughable.
Yeah, it's like almost like Gary Busey. Like he goes, you're gonna see the hottest women, best goddamn piece of ass in the like.
Yeah,
It's. I was like, Jesus Christ,
He's laughing maniacally after every. I would have been like, "I'm not going wherever this dude tells me to go."
yeah.
For sure.
You don't follow that dude to a second location. You don't. You say excuse me, and you go to the men's room and you try to ditch him.
Yeah, you follow him, you're gonna wake up in a bathtub of ice with no kidneys.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, that probably would have been the better ending for Corey Feldman and his buddy.
Mm.
But yeah, and there's also a whole prologue before this in Tierra del Fuego where we get like a little backstory on Angie Everhardt's character Lilith, the lead vampire, where this guy's like looking for her corpse, and he's got like the four pieces of her heart that he's gone to the four ends of the earth. And I don't know if we really need that prologue, but it's there.
Well, I think they're trying to show you how this is the most evil lady who ever lived. But
Yeah,
also, it's like I don't know the actor's name, but he's a little fellow, right?
yeah,
I could say that.
he's a little person. Yes.
And he's got a whole crew of like people that are scared of him. Like, how
Yeah.
does he end up calling the shots?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, he's yeah, we don't get much backstory on that character, but he like, of course Lilith comes back to life and she bites everybody and takes him over, and then he's like her sidekick or her henchman for the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, this is a very slow movie too. I mean, it's only like an hour and 26 minutes long, but it takes forever to get going, man.
It does. It does. I will admit though, even though like the budget for special effects was cut down, some of like I'll give props to the special effects budget. They were able to do some cool stuff too with the money with the little money they had. Because like there is that one scene where Caleb, Corey Feldman's character, his buddy Reggie, I think, he makes out with that one prostitute vampire, and then Angie Everhart comes in and she like sticks her elongated tongue down his throat, so
Mhm.
far down his throat, like she punctures out his heart through his chest with her tongue.
Yeah,
That was,
as you do.
as you do, hey, things get hot and heavy.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, that's pretty cool.
I mean,
It,
they are good effects considering the money they had to spend. I mean,
some of them are because when you look at like her fangs
yeah,
look like those like 25-cent plastic vampire fangs that you used to buy in like magic shops.
yeah, yeah,
Mm. Those gumball machine fangs.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I think my daughter has those same ones.
So I mean, but it they did, the movie does know what it is, but it's not the sort of cheesy fun that you want out of this movie. It's not particularly funny. It's not particularly scary.
It's very campy.
It was. I will say this. So I saw that. I guess it was '96. I was like 19 or 20 when it came out.
Uh huh.
For 19, 20-year-old me, I thought that shit was hilarious.
Oh
Like I remember thinking like Dennis Miller had great lines. He was basically just like a Weekend Update anchor, but like in an action movie.
yeah,
I thought I remember seeing that in the movie, and like I knew it wasn't supposed to be great, but I remember thinking like, oh, that was a really funny movie.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, the line when that dude wants to fight Dennis Miller, and he's like, "Why don't we step outside?" And he was like, "Ah, no thanks, I already got a blowjob today."
Right.
Um, I thought that was one of the funniest lines ever committed to film in my. Like I would tell people that joke. How great that scene was. But watching it now as a 46-year-old dude, it was not funny.
Doesn't hit the same way. I
It
guess.
did not. This might it's this only the watching it again for you guys only the second time I've seen it in my
Yeah,
life.
same.
And it was, and I've told people over the years like, yeah, it was a pretty good movie.
Hmm.
Oh
Um,
boy.
And
and
now you're going to be like writing letters to people. I would like to rescind my earlier
I
statement
know,
on Bordello of Blood.
yeah, dear guy in a bar that I met once in the early 2000s. You don't remember me, but we had a conversation about vampire movies. I may have vouched for Bordello of Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I mean, we could
consider.
talk. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about Dennis Miller's performance. Like he's definitely going for like a almost like a Bill Murray, Chevy
Yes,
Chase type of vibe, like
Yeah.
Fletch. But I
yeah.
don't know if he quite gets there because I don't know. He's definitely going for like smartest, coolest guy in the room,
Yeah. Yeah.
swaggery kind of
But
dude.
but it's that's what he's going for. But the jokes are all like a 15-year-old boy wrote them.
Yeah.
So it's like he's going for that smartest guy in the room, but he's saying the most juvenile shit.
Like, yeah. I mean, when they go to the place, the convention center where they're shooting the televangelist thing, he's like, "Oh, look at this place! It looks like Superman's dad's place on Krypton." And it's like, well, he's in a white room with lots of big windows. I guess it looks sort of like that, maybe. And
Yeah,
that's I sort of recognize that as a joke. It's not particularly funny, but
there
it
was
is,
that.
it is a thing that you have said, Dennis Miller.
Yes, and there was also that one line he had where when he finally gets to the bordello and he sees all the naked women and he's like, oh wow, it's like Larry Flint's Id in here, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the lines that Dennis Miller improv, they stand out like sore thumbs because they're just such Dennis Miller lines. Um,
It's the performance isn't without its charm.
but for me, like a little Dennis Miller goes a long way. He works best in small chunks. I could take about maybe a half hour of sustained Dennis Miller, and an hour and a half of Dennis Miller. It just seems like too much Dennis Miller.
Right. He's like seasoned salt. Just use a little bit.
right. If
That's probably why they made it an hour and 26 minutes. They were
yeah,
like, nobody's going to be able to do 90 minutes of this.
yeah. Well, if this had been like a half hour like the show, I think it would have been fine. If it, but yeah,
Yeah, it could have been one episode of Tales from the Crypt,
yeah.
for
I
sure.
mean, there's about enough plot in there for one episode. Um, like one thing that like totally mystified me was okay. Dennis Miller, he sneaks into the bordello, which is like secret passageway down to the basement, and then he discovers that they're vampires. By the way, he doesn't discover that they're vampires until like literally an hour into the movie. The movie is 2/3 over before our lead characters realize they're dealing with vampires. That seems like too late. Uh, but after he discovers that they're vampires and he has to escape, he somehow knows that he can escape through the fireplace, and he like just tosses some water in the fireplace and somehow gets up there. And I'm like, wait a minute, how does he have any idea how to get upstairs again? Because he was like literally in a coffin. I didn't get that. That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, there were a few things that didn't make. Did anybody else notice this? It happened definitely more towards the end of the movie. There weren't a lot of establishing shots throughout the
Yes.
film.
Uh-huh.
I'll spoiler, I guess, but like towards the end when the Reverend dies and
Yeah.
gets murked, and he tells Catherine and Rafe like, oh, you gotta get to the ministry, get to the studio, warn the people.
Right.
They immediately cut to them inside the ministry. Catherine's on stage. Rafe is behind the camera. They don't show how they got there. They don't show the outside of the ministry to establish there's a change in like location. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know. I found it kind of jarring. I was like, oh, all right, we're just gonna. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean we do see establishing shot of the place earlier in the film. I mean it's in during the daytime, but yeah, it's weird. Yeah, there's also a bit towards the end of the movie where Chris Sarandon's character, the televangelist, he goes like, "Oh no, holy water won't work against Lilith," and I'm like, "What? Why? How do you know this?" Um,
Because she's like a super vampire.
I
That
don't know,
doesn't work against.
just
Like,
I don't know. I did
Yeah,
like
the only thing that works, you got to cut her heart out and then cut
right.
it into 4 pieces.
Right. Right. But I didn't get how Chris Sarandon's character knew that. Like he was up on the lore of vampires.
Maybe the little fella told him.
I guess. Yeah,
What was the? It was a little convoluted.
yeah.
Why did Chris Sarandon want to reawaken the mother of vampires? It just to like feast on sinners, like he
I
was just
think
trying to get rid of.
yeah. I think that was his motivation. Yeah.
see, I thought, but I also, yeah, their reason for bringing her back from the dead was kind of unclear. But I do remember her mentioning a line like, "Oh, you guys are making a lot of money selling the cars of all the sinners I eat." So like maybe
Right.
that's it too. It's like it's
She's
weird.
sweet, sweet used car. So obviously they're rolling in it. They're making like upwards of $4,000 per person per car.
Yeah.
Wait, so they were like, you know what would bring in more money? If we could sell cars that we don't have to pay for.
I,
They were the
I
co-
kind of want to see the movie about vampires running a used car dealership now. I think that might be a more interesting movie. You,
what should we do? Should we start stealing cars from
yeah,
around town?
yeah,
No, that's insane. We might get caught. You crazy?
yeah. What
What
if?
we got to do is we got to resurrect the mother of all vampires.
Right.
It's real easy. We just send in this little fella. We already have her heart in 4 sections in a
He's
little
already
box.
done the legwork. It's good.
Yeah. And then we bring her to life
Right.
and we convince her to run this bordello. And then we
Start
keep
up a book.
sending horny teenagers down there.
Yeah.
And then she'll eat them and then we'll sell their cars.
Right. I mean, it's the perfect plan. Really.
Yeah. Somebody wasn't like, are you sure we shouldn't just maybe steal them when no? I mean,
Yeah. there's a lot less overhead. We don't have to run a bordello. We don't have to renovate a mausoleum or a mortuary to set it up.
Yeah, we don't have to build an escape chute through the incinerator down to the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like no, this works better. We resurrect the dead
Right.
and steal the cars of horny teenagers. It's almost too easy.
What
It
could
wasn't
go
about that. It
wrong?
was like, listen, just hear me out. Let's just try stealing one or two cars and see if that's easy.
Right. Right. But yeah, I really think they missed a bet by not doing used car dealership of blood. I think that
But then they also had a working laser. In 1996, they had a working laser.
right.
So how much money? I guess they were just selling so many cars
They're
that
just
they were like, you know what the
really
church
hard up
needs
for
is a
used
laser.
cars. Yeah. And
Hey, knowing Dennis Miller now, probably one of those Jewish space lasers.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They also the fact that he's Jewish in the film too, I thought was interesting too, because that doesn't really play too much in the film.
Well, his name's Gutman, so I guess we're supposed to immediately realize he's Jewish. I mean, they don't.
No,
That's the only time it comes into play is when one of the like the Lilith opens his shirt, and you think he's going to be wearing a crucifix, but he's wearing a Star of David,
Yeah,
and
yeah. And at the end of the movie, when they take the heart of Lilith to the rabbi
right,
to divide up.
yeah,
I was like, okay,
and he makes a comment about the yarmulke is wearing. He's like, oh, how does this fit?
ha ha.
Um, yeah,
This make my head look fat, cha cha, huh?
yeah.
Wow.
I will say there is a good twist at the end of the movie. Like Tales from the Crypt is kind of known for its twist endings, the surprise endings, and I thought they had a good twist at the end of the movie, and I thought I liked how they sort of subtly set it up. Um, spoiler alert is like I mean we've uh, Dennis Miller and Erica Eleniak have defeated the vampires. They've killed off Angie Everhart's character, and they've split up her heart. Everything's hunky dory, and then they go out to the car again, and then Erica Laniak she's liking the cut of Dennis Miller's jib.
Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, he's like finally worn her down over the course of the movie, and he's like, "Oh, hey, you're coming on to me all of a sudden, huh? What's going on here?" And they start making out in the car, and he like hikes up her skirt a little bit, and that's when we see that she'd been bitten by Angie Everhart's character, and she's got like the two fang marks on her inner thigh.
Dun dun
well,
dun.
he says to her, he's like, oh, what's? Oh, I like your perfume. What is that?
Yeah,
And she's like, that's not perfume. It's sunscreen.
it's suntan lotion.
And then he sees the marks, and then she bites him.
Yeah,
So it does end on a happy note. It does end
it
with
does end.
everybody in this miserable movie dead.
Yeah,
But
it does end with Dennis Miller becoming the undead, so it is a happy ending.
can you imagine Dennis Miller for the rest of eternity? Just
Oh
doing that.
God, oh God,
But also like sunscreen. So sunscreen will keep vampires alive
yeah.
in the daytime, and she's the first one to figure it out.
Well, no, like the overacting dude. We see him earlier in the movie. He's at the funeral. He's wearing sunscreen too, so he can go out in the daylight. I don't know why the nurse who assaults Dennis Miller in the hospital doesn't think of that or doesn't know about that, because like he just like rips open the back of her dress, and then she's just burned up by the rising
Yes.
sun.
You
And
think
and also
that
Whoopi
would be
Goldberg's there for some reason. Uh,
Yeah,
you think that would be the very first thing they tell you?
yeah,
Hey, listen, you just made the big transition. You're a vampire now.
right.
Probably the most helpful thing you need to know is that you can go outside if you wear sunscreen.
That's an important safety tip. I mean, that's that's not even, it's more important than avoiding skin cancer. It's like you could literally explode if you forget this. So yeah, you'd think they would lead with that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, while we're talking about, can we talk about that cameo in the
Oh
hospital?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. After the vampire blows up a patient in another bed, it's she just like gets up and she's like, I knew I should have taken that private room. And it's Whoopi Goldberg apparently playing herself. She's just in the hospital in this place for some random reason. Um, Apparently, this came about because Whoopi Goldberg was friends with the people making the movie. And she was like, hey, I want to help you out. I want to do a day on this movie and like do a cameo. I think she said, you don't even have to pay me. And then they were talking about this on the podcast, and they were saying that after they made the deal, they started getting calls from Whoopi's people saying like, "Oh, well, you got to shoot her out in like 6 hours, then you got to shoot her out in like 4 hours," and like they finally made the arrangements so that like when Whoopi arrives on set and is ready to shoot, we will drop whatever we're doing and just shoot with her and then get her out as quickly as possible. And they got her. They shot her out in like 2.5 hours. And Whoopi Goldberg was said to them was like, "Well, I thought I was going to be with you for the whole day. I mean, why are you shooting me out so quickly? Don't you have anything else you want to do with me?" And they were like, "We've been getting calls from your people for weeks saying how quickly we have to get you out." And she's literally in the movie for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. I heard her character was in the hospital because she almost died of embarrassment from that movie.
It's
Heyo.
it's just such a random thing. Yeah,
I mean, I guess it's kind of cool that she's in it, but it is like, what? I don't. What is this?
it's just more random than funny. You're just like, oh hey, what the hell is Whoopi Goldberg doing there? And then she's gone before you have time to think about it any further. So it's really weird. Very random cast in this movie.
Very random.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the big climax where Dennis Miller and Chris Sarandon they charge into the Bordello with super soakers filled with holy water and they're blowing up all the vampires. I'm like, okay, that's kind of clever. That's neat. I don't believe that Chris Sarandon could get very far with just a squirt gun, but uh,
Yeah, like I will admit that scene was kind of cool with them coming in, shooting up all the vampires while Ballroom Blitz plays. I was like, all right, that's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah. The soundtrack was actually, I meant to mention that.
yeah,
The soundtrack to the movie was the best part. There was a handful of songs in there that went, that was the best example. But a
yeah,
handful of songs suited their scenes very well.
yeah. I mean, they've got. Let's see. I'm looking at the soundtrack now. They got "All Right Now" by Free. They got "Jailbreak" by Thin Lizzy. "Still Loving You" by the Scorpions.
Not bad.
Uh,
Yeah, it was a good hard rock.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but see, that's the other thing too. Like, because like in the scene before them coming in, he's in the hospital, and he kills the vampire. Whoopi Goldberg says, "Hey, I'm trying to sleep here," and
right.
then immediately it cuts to him inside the bordello, crashing his car through it, saying, "Hey, I got a super soaker full of holy water. Let's go get him."
Yeah.
I was like, how did you get that super soaker full of holy water? Like, where'd you get that?
Well, I mean, I can buy that he gets a super soaker. It might be like a little more difficult to scrounge up a priest on short notice to bless the water and turn it into holy water, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's it's weird. I'm still scratching my head over like it's we literally they don't realize they're dealing with vampires until an hour into an hour 26-minute movie. Uh, that he should realize that like maybe 40 minutes in.
Yeah, he's not the best detective.
Because I mean, because that's the fun stuff is like when they realize, oh, we're dealing with this weird stuff, and and at one point, like Erica Laniak, she decides to go on this crusade against sex work, and she goes to like a strip club, and Angie Everhart's there, and she's like interviewing her, and she's like, oh, you've got your hands in this too, and then she's looking at the footage later, and Angie Everhart doesn't show up on film because vampire, and that's when everybody realizes.
Uh huh.
Yeah, it's weird because like she works for Evangelist, but then like halfway through the movie, it's like she's a reporter or something.
Yeah, I think she just basically, it's like she says like, "Hey, preacher, I'm gonna do a expose on the seedy underbelly of our town."
Right.
I was like, "Oh, do you have a journalism degree, or like you just have a wild hair up your ass to do this?" All right.
I don't know. It was weird. I mean, it would have made more sense if they'd established her as a reporter at the beginning of the film. I mean, I don't
My first, if I was a journalist for that church, my first assignment would have been like, hey, how do we get a laser?
know. Yeah. Do you need a real laser for your church thing to shoot the plastic devil that pops up behind your big cross? Why do
It
you,
just feels dangerous.
yeah,
Yeah.
what that's just asking for trouble. Why do you need a real laser for that? Couldn't you just have a flashlight that
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then it breaks up in some predetermined fashion? You don't need to actually destroy it.
I mean, I knew they had that laser. Like as soon as I saw them do the laser in that rehearsal, I was like, "All right, so that's going to come into play later."
Right.
But it is weird how they have an actual dangerous laser that can like apparently burn things and people just kind of sitting
Yeah.
around their megachurch like
It's
that.
like you're not Goldfinger. You don't really need a laser. You don't have to kill James Bond later. But it came in really handy because they had to kill a vampire and burn
Yeah.
a cross into her back. So,
Yeah.
um,
I need freaking sharks with freaking lasers on their heads.
And by the way, he's tied up, gets the laser going, burns a into the vampire
yeah,
with his foot while he's tied up.
yeah. While he's handcuffed to something. Yeah,
That just felt a little unreal. It seems like it would have been a little messy.
yeah, yeah. It's by the way, like towards the end of the film when Lilith kills the guy in the control booth, um, and Erica Leniak is going like, "Oh, Jonas, Jonas, what's going on?" And Lilith, Angie Everhart goes, "Jonas doesn't work here anymore." She takes this weird dramatic pause over anymore, and I'm like, that is a bad line reading, man. It's like, why did you pause there? It's not scary. It's not fear. It's not funny. I'm just like, why did you say it like that? Why did you not get another take of that?
Yeah, there was nobody giving her notes. After watching that movie, I was like, oh, Harvey Weinstein wasn't the worst thing.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah,
Um, you think somebody would have sat her down and been like, listen, you're doing great, but
yeah.
you're actually pretty terrible. Like, we need to work on some of these line readings.
Well, and apparently Sylvester Stallone was coaching her for at least part of this movie too. Like she would come back and she'd like work the scenes with Sly. I don't know why that didn't get her great results, but and they kind of have to work against that too.
Yeah.
But wow, this movie it's a weird freaking movie, man. Like I say, not really, not especially entertaining, not especially funny, not especially scary. It's just kind of there. It slogs along very slowly, and yeah, it's
I was reading that Angie Everhart says that it's become this cult movie,
yeah.
and I don't think that's actually true though.
I don't think so. I don't see it.
I never hear anybody talk about this movie
Well,
Yeah.
ever.
except you talking it up in bars with random dudes in the early 2000s.
Right. Well, it's been a while. I haven't heard anybody talk about it since I was 20 years.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not like Rocky Horror or anything like that. But I can understand it having a cult following if it does have any. Like, I mean, like overall, I thought this film it definitely wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be, but it's definitely like a lot more campier and cheesier than I thought it'd be. It definitely. I can see you getting a bunch of your friends together, getting some drinks, and just watching this film and just laughing at it and making jokes, MST3K style at this film.
It would be more enjoyable with alcohol. I mean, I just watched it at 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning,
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
maybe not the best time to watch it, and maybe not the best condition. This movie, by the way, has a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, 31% audience score. So yeah, I don't see this being a big cult movie. Um, there are some funny reviews of it though. Lawrence Van Gelder from the New York Times, he writes, "Vampires aren't the only things in Bordello blood that can't stand up to daylight. Neither can the plot."
Heyo,
I like that one. Uh,
burn.
Walter Chaw from Film Freak Central says, "In the history of active sabotage, this one's right up there."
Wow.
Uh,
Uh, but yeah, I mean, this movie is definitely. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen anything like it. It's just like
it is definitely a movie.
it's
It is it is definitely moving pictures that play for about an hour and a half. It is undeniably a movie.
can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I thought this film, like I said, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It was actually like the behind the scenes of how this film got made was probably more entertaining than the actual film. Like to learn that everybody hated Dennis Miller
Yeah.
filming this thing. The director, I believe I remember reading like the director got into shouting matches with him.
Yeah.
He pissed off Corey Feldman at some point, and they got into it.
I
And
wish there was footage of that. I would pay money to see footage of that, of Corey Feldman facing off against Dennis Miller.
yeah, because I think like what happened is like from what I understand from hearing from a behind the scenes video, like Corey Feldman says, yeah, like there was this one thing I saw where he was walking by some crew members on set, and the crew members was like, "Oh, hey, Dennis, how's it going?" And Dennis was like busy reading. He was like, "Oh yeah, hey, what's up?" And like that was enough to cheese him off because like he saw, oh, he's creating like a really not great environment throughout this film, and like he was like, "Oh, who does that? Who does that? Just brush off people like that. That's gross."
I'm still laughing that somebody was like got greenlit to make a movie, and then we're like, "Quick, get me Dennis Miller and Angie Everhart."
Right. Yeah. Because that's, and it's, yeah. I found another good review. This is Gilbert. No, wait, I'm sorry. That's the director. Jack
What
Matthews from the Los Angeles Times. He writes, "This is the version of Dracula that Bram Stoker would have written with the collaboration of Mel Brooks and the Marquis de Sade over drinks at Hooters." Um,
that's a
that
wordy one.
that sums it up. That's like the Dennis Miller review. That's a Dracula that Bram Stoker would have written with the collaboration of Mel Brooks and the Marquis de Sade over drinks at Hooters. Chuck.
It's like Nosferatu meets the Zucker brothers, huh?
Yeah. Um, it- when Dennis Miller finished shooting his part for this movie, he went over to the director, Gilbert Adler, and he gave him a hug, and he was like, "Hey, thanks. Um, if you ever want to have dinner with me and my wife, you and your wife, I'd love to set that up." And Gilbert Adler was just like, "No, no, I'm not having dinner with you. I'm not ever talking to you again." And
Get the fuck away from me.
I just love that, he was that blunt with Dennis Miller. He was just like, "No, we're not friends. You're a dick. Goodbye." I actually remember seeing a behind the scenes thing, or maybe I think it was some like upcoming movies thing on Comedy Central that Dennis Miller was hosting, and at the end of this, he plugged this movie. He gave the obligatory plug, and I just remember Dennis Miller going, "I don't think you're going to see me at that Dot Chandler Pavilion next year." So, I think he knew that this movie wasn't going to do great, and it wasn't going to do great things for his career. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, he still got some acting work after. Like, I think before this he was in the movie The Net with Sandra Bullock, and then after this he did.
I'd forgotten that. Holy shit!
Remember The Net?
I remember the net. I remember one moment in the net making me laugh out loud in the theater because it was so freaking stupid. I'd forgotten that Dennis Miller was in that though. Oh geez, we could do the net sometime.
We could do the net, and I think after this he was in Murder at 1600 with Wesley Snipes. He had like done some films here and there. Like it didn't totally kill his
Yeah,
career, but it was didn't do it no favors.
yeah. I don't think he does much acting anymore though.
No, I think too much money to be made in right wing ranting.
Yeah. By the way, did you notice like okay, towards the end of this movie, like Erica Laniak, her character's prisoner, and then Lilith, the lead vampire lady, is uh sort of ogling her, and then she like starts feeling her up, but they shoot it. They just I'm sure this was shot with a body double because like she's feeling up Catherine, but you don't see Erica Laniak's face at all. So I'm sure they shot that like after the fact because like uh, we got to set up this ending somehow.
Yeah, I think. I mean, from what I'm reading here on Wikipedia, like Elaniak says that she had an argument with the producers, with
Right.
Joel Silver, because Joel Silver really wanted to add a sexy scene between her and Andrea Everhart, which wasn't in the script, and they wanted to like they wanted to pump up the sex appeal between the two of them and have like some, I guess, almost soft core ish type of scene between them, and like she didn't want to do it, so they probably just put a body double in there. But
Yeah.
like, all right, here you can, you and your bros can whack off to that. I'm not gonna, I don't want to do it.
Well, it's pretty obviously not shot with her because I don't think there are even any insert shots of her like reacting to that. And it's just like, well, why would you not have her face in frame unless it's not her?
Mm.
So it's
Yeah, this wow, this movie,
but
wow.
but I do like I said, I do like the twist at the end. I think it's a clever twist at the end. I like right after Dennis Miller rescues her and we don't know that she's been bitten yet. And Dennis Miller, he goes like, oh, are you okay? You're so pale. And I'm like, okay, that's a decent subtle-ish setup. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
that could easily go over your head the first time you watch it, but it I remembered the ending of this movie, so it popped out to me when I was watching it this time around. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that
I,
makes.
I hadn't remembered much about this thing. I remembered the ending, and I remembered the super soaker vampires exploding, and that was about it, really.
I don't remember anything from the job joke.
Yeah. Well, sure. I mean, that's the blowjob joke. That's the thing you write home about.
Yeah, I mean, that's poetry right there.
I mean,
I remember thinking like after, oh, if anybody ever wants to fight me,
have you ever gotten to use that line in real life, Ken?
no.
Yeah.
Problem is, I'm so damn charming and likable. Nobody ever wants to fight me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I bet if you used the line, you could have gotten punched, though.
All right. But yeah, Ken. So overall, what are your thoughts on this film as a whole? Does it hold up like you remember? Do you find any charm in it at all, or is it just
No,
okay?
no. I found it. I mean, there are a couple moments, but if you're a horror fan or a horror comedy fan, I think there's thousands of other movies
Yeah.
that will do the trick. I don't even think you need to like check this one out out of curiosity.
No. No. There's some interesting stories in the how not to make a movie podcast about the making of the movie. I guess it's decent if you've seen the movie and you have a little more context for it, but you don't really need to have seen it. But ooh, yeah. I mean, Darren, how'd you react to this watching this for the first time?
For the first time, I don't know. It wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. It was kind of cheesy, and it had some charm, but like, I mean, by no means will I say this is a good movie.
Yeah,
I would say yeah, I would put it up there with like a MST3K type of cheesy bad movie. I mean, Dennis Miller constantly ad libbing, like with his when he walks into the bordello, says "Lucy, I'm home,"
yeah,
or that one line when they try to meet up with Caleb and they go to that warehouse and he's like, "Oh, I feel like I'm in a bad Tales from the Crypt episode here. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets a little meta for that. That's kind of cute.
Yeah.
But
But I'm yeah. But overall, it's not as bad as I thought it'd be. But yeah, it's not. It ain't great.
no, no, it's not great. It's not. I mean, I've said this a couple times before already, but not especially funny, not especially scary, not really cheesy enough to be entertaining. Not even like especially sexy. I would say it's
Yeah.
there's some gratuitous nudity, but I wouldn't say that there's any moments that are any like sort of turn on moments or anything like that, which might be a reason you'd see a movie of this type. I mean, it's not as sexy as like say From Dusk Till Dawn or anything like that.
You know.
Um,
Yeah. It's no Species.
no, there's better gratuitous nudity in Species. So if you want to watch a good gratuitous movie from 1996, check out Species.
Um, but From Dusk Till Dawn was very like kind of the same premise.
Yeah,
Like it was done so well. Like it wasn't a bad premise at all. They could have made a good movie out of
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you could have made a good, fun, cheesy movie for this. I mean, I think you probably would have needed a little more budget. You would have needed better casting. I mean, this is just one of those movies where not a whole lot went right. So
Yeah.
it's yeah,
There,
it's
there was a better movie in here. We just didn't get there.
nope, nope. I mean, I definitely think that Daniel Baldwin and Robin Givens would have been better casting. I think if you cast somebody else in the Erica Eleniak part and maybe had it be closer to the original conception, I think that would have worked better for the movie.
Robin Gibbons would have been perfect.
Yeah, Robin Gibbons would have been nice. I
She's
think
sexy as hell and can actually act.
yeah, and she would have had just the right vibe for it. I feel like yeah, she would have gotten it. So yeah.
Okay. All right. And yeah, I guess that's our episode, guys. Thanks again for listening as always. We should probably maybe check in with the Twitters and see what the people tweeted
I
at
was
us.
about to say yes, we did get a few responses on Twitter about this. We got our buddy Bill Brodsky at Bill Brodsky 2620. He says, just to let you know, there actually was a third Tales from the Crypt movie, but it was never released theatrically in the U.S. It was called Ritual. It came out in 2002. And then it quotes this a third Crypt movie was planned on the release of Bordello Blood, but due to the low box office take in of that film, this film's references to the Tales from the Crypt franchise and Crypt Keeper intro and credits were removed until the DVD release. Wow.
Mm,
So that's how toxic the Tales from the Crypt franchise had become by that point.
yeah. And Cool Ranch for Life tweets at us saying, "You deserve a Purple Heart for your bravery, sirs." Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'd get a Purple Heart and then we'd just be ripped out of our chests.
With
Heart.
yes, by her tongue.
Yes. And Drew S. Rod at DSIE78 says, great podcast, fellas. Thank you very much. 2 suggestions for movie review for the holidays: Office Christmas Party with Kate McKinnon and Vanessa Bayer, and for Father's Day, Daddy's Home with Will Ferrell. Yeah, I think those are both good suggestions. We haven't done either one of those. Yeah, I'd be up for doing either one of those. I haven't seen either one, but they got to be better than Bordello Blood, right?
I haven't seen either, and I'm already saying they're better than Bordello of Blood.
Right. Yeah. Same. So, I mean, Ken, thanks very much for joining us for this. Sorry we didn't have a better movie for you to watch this time around. We'll try to fix that for next time. And Ken, you've got a podcast of your own, right? I Love Rock and Roll.
Yeah, I love rock and roll. If you're into music and comedy, we interview lots of big name musicians and lots of comedians about their favorite bands. Check it out. Actually, the last guest we had a very cool Saturday Night Live story.
Oh, cool. Well, tell us about it.
So we interviewed this drummer by the name of Alvin Taylor. And when he was 13 years old, listen how cool this dude's life was. At the age of 13, he played drums for fun, and he was a busboy in a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
and the hotel had a house band that played on the weekends, but the drummer was an alcoholic and oftentimes couldn't perform. So they would let Alvin at 13 sit in on the drums whenever this dude was too sloshed to play.
Cool.
So one night he's playing and with the band, and into the lounge walks Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Billy Preston, and Little Richard.
Wow.
And Little Richard freaks out when he sees this kid drumming and is like, "You have to be in my band." And convinces his mom to let him join Little Richard's band. Listen to who was in his band at the time. It was Little Richard, Billy Preston, and Jimmy James on guitar, who you might not recognize that name, but
Oh, I do.
Oh yeah,
He's the
was
boss on
Jimi
News Radio.
Hendrix. So he's in a band with Little Richard, Billy Preston, and Jimi Hendrix at 13, and his first gig is opening for Elvis.
Wow.
They
God.
opened for Elvis in Vegas for his residencies. He opened for Elvis like hundreds of times, I think. But anyway, fast forward through Billy Preston, he appears in the house band on the very first episode of Saturday Night Live to ever air.
Oh, okay.
So he said he was sitting there backstage. Everybody, he said, Belushi's dressing room, Chevy Chase, Jane Kirk, all the dressing room doors are open because they're hoping people walk by and talk to them. They're all sitting around talking about like how cool an opportunity this is and how quickly it'll be off the air, but that it's like cool that they got to do it. And he sat in. He's the drummer in the band on the very first SNL, and he told us if he had never worked another day in his life after that, if he had quit the industry the next morning, the residuals that he's gotten from that would have kept him comfortable for the rest of his life.
Wow.
Damn.
That's incredible. Wow. That's a great story. Wow.
Yeah, this dude played with everybody. He played with George Harrison, Ron Wood, Stevie Wonder. If you're into music, it's the I Love Rock and Roll podcast.
Yeah. All right. So check it out, folks. And you can just check us out on Twitter at SNL Nerd Show. You can also check out our individual pages on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Trumbull Comic. That's TRUMBULL and then the word comic. Darren, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Darren Credible. That's DARIN Credible.
Yeah. So go do that. And yeah, give us more suggestions for movies we can check out on this podcast. We're going to have a big chunk of weeks we have to fill with movies. So let us know what you want to hear us cover on the podcast. And SNL will be back next week with a new episode with Jack Harlow as the host and the musical guest. So looking forward to that. Be nice to have the show back.
Mm-hmm.
So, Darren, you looking forward to that?
Oh, I am. Oh, indeed. Mr. Jack Harlow. I know little to nothing about him, so it's going to be quite exciting. Quite interesting.
Barely remember when he was on the show before.
Barely.
Oh, yeah. I'd have to look that up and see what we said back then. And, am I going to do that before next week's episode? Yeah, probably not.
Nope. Why mess with the spontaneity of it?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see you back there for next week. But until then, nerds out.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.